Drew DeArmond, I hope all is well. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Thank you, Ryan. I always enjoy being back on, and I wanted to give a special shout-out while I was first getting on the show to our good mutual friend John Garcia Jr. and his new venture as Director of Recruiting for Sports Illustrated and their All-American section now. It's called SI All-American. It covers high school football for a national publication like Sports Illustrated. I know how hard John has worked. You know how knowledgeable he is. And I wanted to let Tuscaloosa know that John Garcia is made this move, and I'm really proud of him and look forward to speaking with him again soon, and I know you do as well.
Yeah, I've got him scheduled for tomorrow. We were going to do today, but he didn't know at what point the announcement was going to come down. I've been knowing that this has been in the works for a few weeks. I know as you have as well, and it's, a lot of people are like, hey, let's feature John. And John's one of those guys that is a friend of both of our programs, just an overall good guy, blue-collar, lunch pail mentality, just a go-getter. And it's a lot of fun, and congratulations on John Garcia getting that new job as Director of Recruiting for SI. So we'll continue talking to John, and we'll have a chance to feature him tomorrow. He's scheduled to be on the show, and we're gonna have a lot of fun and talk about this. But, Nick Saban's biggest recruiting job, speaking of recruiting, it's a wonderful segue, is getting a little bit of these juniors just to say, you know what, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to Alabama and help Alabama get over the hump.
Yeah, to me, that's just about as important, if not more so, than finishing out this recruiting class strong. It's probably, equal parts. They need to add 4 or 5 guys to this recruiting class in 2020 to close it out, have a chance to sign the number 1 class in the country again. No worse than top 3. But if you want to have a team on the field next year that can win a national championship, get back atop the mountain, shut some people up in the national media, and hammer some nails into some other coffins, you need to be able to re-recruit some of these juniors back to the University of Alabama. I think there's been a lot of time spent by Nick Saban and his staff on that. This past week, especially those that are on the ground in Tuscaloosa in the football building. And I think they're laying the groundwork to try to get several of these juniors back. And if they did, it would really change the narrative that a lot of people have put out that Alabama is on the way down. And I think Alabama could be back with a vengeance next year and bring hell and fury with them. And I think it would be a fun thing if you're an Alabama fan to see a lot of coaches turn white and swallow real hard.
Drew DeArmond. Wow. I don't even know where I go with this. Tua Tagovailoa, let's just go through the list, okay? Tua Tagovailoa, I say that he stays. What about you?
Yes, I believe that. I've leaned more and more to that in the last 2 weeks every day. I think Tua Tagovailoa is laying the groundwork to stay. I think he wants to finish his Alabama career, the way any great player and competitor would, which means competing for a championship, not on a cart, and not being able to finish it with his brothers. And I do think Tua Tagovailoa is going to return to the University of Alabama. I'll stick my neck out. I believe that. Jerry
Jeudy, I think he's gone. Now, I don't think there's any way Nick Saban would allow him to come back. I just look at Jerry Jeudy being one of the top picks in the NFL. I don't think Nick Saban. I think he generally encourages these guys. Now, if you could make more money, but I don't know if there's much more ceiling for Jerry Jeudy in the NFL. What do you think?
Well, I think Jerry Jeudy is gone. I think he'll be a top 20 pick. If not, he will be as big a steal as Calvin Ridley has been for the Atlanta Falcons. But he is cut from the same cloth as Julio Jones. Of course, Amari Cooper and Calvin, who have all turned into really good NFL receivers, and even Robert Foster, who doesn't get a lot of credit. He's not an all-pro, but he's been a very good player for the Buffalo Bills. But those 3 guys were all first-round draft choices from Alabama. They've all lived up to that hype. They've all produced in the NFL. And Jerry Jeudy has put together back-to-back strong seasons at Alabama. He won the Biletnikoff last year. This year, numbers are a little down, but he still had a great season. I hope he plays in the bowl game, but if he doesn't, I completely understand the climate today. But, yes, I think Jerry Jeudy has proven all he can, and I think going in the top 20 in the NFL draft, and perhaps even if he goes between 15 and 20 to a pretty good football team, I think would be very smart. Now, Jerry Jeudy, I think still, if he works out well and interviews well, I still think he can go in that top 10. But I think Jerry Jeudy, definitely that should be the next move for him. I think he's proven all he can, on the college level.
Henry Ruggs. I don't know if I hear the buzz, but I don't really have a good feel for Henry Ruggs. Do you?
Well, Henry Ruggs and Xavier McKinney, to me, are kind of in the same boat. I think that I'm probably 50-50, 60-40 on both of them. To me, I think they would both benefit by returning, though I understand from a workout standpoint, the first time Henry Ruggs runs a 40 and clocks a 4.2, it's going to blow a lot of people away. But I do think this. I think it's a very deep wide receiver group for this draft. I do think he would still have the opportunity to go in the first round, probably between 16 and 32 in the first round. But I will say this. If he came back to Alabama, right now he has been between third and fourth option on this team, even though he's put up almost 1,500 yards receiving, or about that much in his career at Alabama, and really most of it in the last 2 years. I still think if he came back, especially if 13 was behind center, he would be a bigger part of the offense, and he could, in a class next year of receivers that aren't as deep, he could move up higher in the first round. But he's a guy that I think would have a very solid chance to go in round one, so you certainly would not blame him if he did, come out for the draft. But I do think my gut tells me that he would do a lot for himself to come back and be a bigger featured part of the offense. So I would be leaning to him returning right now, but it's very, very, very close.
Devontae Smith, he wanted to be known and more, and we talked about this several times. I've got a wonderful print from Daniel Moore, newlifeart.com. It's a great way to work in a sponsor as one of those 2020 calendars or metallic prints. But I've got a 2nd and 26, 41-yard reception from Tua Tagovailoa to Devontae Smith. He wanted to be known more than just that one play. I think he's done that. Could he have a chance to come back and even be more known as maybe one of those guys that looks at the NFL and says, hey, it's a deep wide receiver room. I could continue to improve, and I could take that next step and make a lot more money in 2020.
I definitely think that with Devontae Smith. Right now, to me, because of his frame, and they have some questions about his durability, I think, and he got banged up as a sophomore, I think Devontae Smith would do well to come back. Because I think his ceiling right now would be somewhere in the early 20s and maybe to mid-second round. Perhaps he could go in round one, but I think more than likely, I would say probably 60% or more due to the depth of the class. And Devontae's not a burner. Now, he's a technician. He's got the best hands on the team, and certainly, I think a defensive back that would probably have some sleepless nights if he came back to school would be Darryl Stingley of LSU, because he's still trying to catch Devontae Smith. But I think if Devontae came back, he would be a guy that would be slotted late first with a ceiling to probably mid-second to a guy that could go, in the top half of the first round if he came back and had another great year with a quarterback like Tua Tagovailoa. So I think Devontae Smith, the chances are pretty high that he returns. I felt like that before the season. Now, he had a monster year because of Judy's attention, and he had a chance to make a lot of plays. But I still think he and Henry Ruggs could both enhance themselves very much so by coming back to school.
Terrell Lewis, I'm trying to be nice. He really irritated me a few weeks ago when he said I could turn it on and turn it off. Because that's pretty much admitting that it was off. I think as you look at Terrell Lewis's career, and I know he had the injuries, I don't know if he just lived up to expectation. Like every game I thought when he wanted to, he could be the best player on the field. But rarely did he really want to take that 100%. Just my opinion.
Well, I think Terrell Lewis became gun-shy because, one, he had a very freak injury his sophomore year against Florida State when he tears an elbow ligament and has Tommy John surgery, which you don't see often with pass rushers. And then he comes back the next year in July before practice, even starts fall camp and tears his ACL and misses the next year. I think and then this year he tweaked his knee and had to have maybe a scope after the South Carolina game. I just don't think he was ever right. I think the injuries kind of affected his mindset. And so I think, there were times that he probably did protect himself. I certainly thought he disappeared against Auburn because if Terrell Lewis makes 2 or 3 plays in the Auburn game for sacks, tackles for losses, can disrupt Bo Nix, that's the difference between winning and losing. If you're a first-round draft pick, that's what you can do. In a tight, close game against a heated rival, that's when you make your money. And I thought Terrell Lewis kind of disappeared in that game. I thought after Arkansas, quite frankly, we didn't see him a whole lot because he had 6 sacks that period of time. He missed some opportunities to make plays. But I'll say this. I think he's been – you covered him, I covered him this year. He's been talking in the past tense the whole season. So to me, he's ready to go. He's ready to move on to the NFL. He still has massive upside. I hope he goes in the first round because he's been through a lot injury-wise. It would not shock me if he slips into the second round, maybe even the third, due to some productivity concerns and his injuries. I still think he can be an outstanding pro. I think he would be a steal in the second round. I think he has first-round talent. But to me, I think his mind has been on the next level and trying to, and of course, in the NFL, it's not for long. You're going to have to, your investments, you have to play hard every down and earn your money. And it's not your contract's not going to be guaranteed. But I do think he was cautious throughout his college career due to the injuries. And if he can get up there in the NFL, get into a good situation, say he gets drafted by a good team, say the Baltimore Ravens drafted him. They've done a great job taking Bama guys. If he got within a winning culture and winning organization like he did with Alabama, I think Terrell Lewis could have an outstanding pro career and then start being very productive, get some confidence, stay healthy his rookie year, and I think he could be off to the races. But I think it's time for Terrell Lewis to move on.
Fair enough. The 2 tackles, Jedrick Wills, Alex Leatherwood, do you think they return?
I think Alex Leatherwood needs another year to play his natural position of left tackle, Ryan. You see a lot of projections with him late first round. Usually what that means is you're probably going to slip out of round 1. I think he needs to get stronger. I think he needs to be a little more consistent. I think he was good this year, not great. I think he can take that next step next year and solidify a first-round grade. Jedrick Wills, to me, is the more polished of the 2 guys. He plays with a lot of power. Probably still needs to do a little bit better job in pass pro at times, but he's very, very intelligent, which is going to really impress NFL teams. He can play 5 different positions. I know Nick Saban thought that when he was recruited. He could slide inside to center or guard if needed in the NFL. I don't know if he's a left tackle, but he can at least be a right tackle. So versatility is going to be his strong suit and being able to maul people in the running game. So it wouldn't surprise me if he slid inside to guard. But being able to play tackle is going to be to his advantage. He'll probably leave. I do think he could use another year personally, Ryan, to be more consistent in pass protection. But if he's a guy that, gets a first-round grade between 16 and 32, probably will move on. And you can't really blame him because I think he has a chance if he goes to a good organization that he could, especially a team that's on the cusp of maybe being a perennial playoff contender like a Minnesota Vikings or somewhere like that, which when you're getting drafted in the teens and the 20s and maybe to the lower part of the first round, that's your advantage. I think he'll interview really well because of his intelligence. And more than likely, I think Jedrick will probably go. But honestly, I think he could use another year along with Leatherwood. He's going to be another one of these guys like a Xavier McKinney, like a Henry Ruggs that's going to have a difficult decision to make. I'm hearing he's probably going to go. But, again, I think he could use another year to be a little bit more consistent. So if he moves on, I think Alex Leatherwood stays. I think you'll see Evan Neal move out to right tackle to bookend certainly with Alex Leatherwood, and you'll have Emil Ekiyor slide into left guard.
All right, so Jerry, we'll put that on hold because we don't have time to go through every single pick, and hopefully these juniors will decide to come back. Let's go to Georgia just for a couple of minutes and talk about the SEC championship game. I proposed the question Saturday night after the game, and people accuse me of just using the emotions, but no, it's something that we talk about quite frequently here. It's the Herschel Walker DVDs. It's Kirby Freeze, Smart. Is Georgia in better shape with Kirby Smart than they were with Mark Richt? I say no. I just don't think they are.
Well, I just think it's a sequel to a movie. I think it's the same deal. I mean, while Rick had won 2 SEC championships, by 2005, he didn't ever reach the national championship game. He did reach an SEC championship game again. He lost to Alabama in 2012. He lost also to LSU. But Kirby Smart has at least made a national championship game. Now, Tua Tagovailoa ripped his heart out, and it's the reason that Tua is going to be considered a legend in Tuscaloosa for the rest of his career. But right now, Kirby Smart has reached a crossroads. He's reached the same one that Les Miles, the hat had when he couldn't get his team over the hump. He did win a national championship, unlike Smart, but he would not change his offense, and it ended up ultimately being the boat anchor that sank his career in Baton Rouge because he wouldn't modernize. Kirby is reaching the same point. I will say, I said on my show today, I don't think he'll do that yet. I think he's probably going to keep James Coley. A lot of people thought he might bring Mike Bobo in, but Will Muschamp headed him off there. I think the injuries will probably be something that they'll look to that with their wide receivers and with their offensive line, and even DeAndre Swift, because he wasn't himself in the SEC championship game. But eventually Kirby Smart is going to have to change his approach offensively, because playing wide ball, playing everything tight, running the ball, and then only passing when you have to, which is basically what Georgia does a lot, it just doesn't work anymore. The game manager role at quarterback doesn't win you national championships. You have to be dynamic at quarterback. I don't think Jake Fromm progressed this year. I was told before the season that Fromm hadn't made, the necessary improvements they had hoped. His wide receiver group obviously wasn't good enough this year. So I think Georgia, they're really good on defense, but look what you saw LSU do to them. LSU toyed with them, and anybody in their right mind that thinks Georgia is a better football team than Alabama, they don't know very much, and they do need to watch a Herschel Walker DVD because modern football has passed them by.
Who are you rooting for? Who do you think will win this national title?
Well, I picked LSU. I picked the 2 semifinal games. I picked my scores this weekend. As you know, you're good friends with Dan Matthews and Chuck Oliver of the Chuck Oliver Show. Dan posed that question on social media. I picked LSU 56-21 over the Oklahoma Sooners. I think it's a complete mismatch. I think they're going to smash OU. OU's defense is better, but they've seen nothing. I don't care how good the Big 12 is supposed to be offensively. They have seen nothing like Burrow, those receivers, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think in a close game, what could be a classic game, I picked Dabo and the national champions 34-28 over the Ohio State Buckeyes. So I've got LSU beating the Clemson Tigers in a classic national championship game. And I just think this is a year for Coach O. I think it's the year for LSU. I think everything lined up for them. And the only thing that could stop them from winning it all is Joe Burrow getting injured.
Hey, Drew, if you see a defensive coordinator running around the streets of Huntsville, send him a Tuscaloosa. We're looking for one. Not yet. Okay, hold on. Gotta wait till after the early signing period. But if you see one walking the streets, anything would be better than Pete Golding, right? I mean, you could find a lot of guys. I mean, North Alabama.
Well, all I can say is LSU, some people are saying they have the best offense college football's ever seen. Alabama is more talented than LSU offensively. That's just a fact. I know what Joe Burrow has done. I know what their wide receivers have done. Alabama's got 4 receivers. LSU's got 3. Alabama's got Tua. They got Burrow. Tua wasn't helped. Alabama's got a better offensive line. We saw what that offensive line with a backup quarterback did to the vaunted Auburn Tigers. They beat the hell out of them for the entire football game. A couple of fluke interceptions and some penalties and some mistakes marred it for Alabama. But we saw how they eviscerated Kevin Steele's defense. I'm telling you right now that if Alabama can just fix their defense, they will be back and back quickly, especially if about 5 of these juniors come back. I know Chris Wallace has reported some things today. I've been hearing those same things before that for the last few days. I think Alabama's going to get some of these guys back, and I think they got a chance to have a great football team next year. But first of all, they got to get rid of the Keystone Cops, and they got to fix their defense. because right now they play defense like a Big 12 team, and the standard at Alabama has slipped, and they've got to get it back. They can get it back quickly because I think they've got some really good young talent on all three levels on their defense.
100%.
But it's all about mindset and holding people accountable to do their jobs and playing Alabama football, which is to knock the snot out of you. And Alabama's gotten away from that. And so to me, this needs to be a situation where you need to bring in some new blood on the defensive staff and maybe some new old blood, like when Sal Sunseri returned last year. And then spring practice needs to be a reckoning for those that want to be here or not. And I think defensively, they need to get back to that Bama standard. We've already heard Coach Saban talk about that, getting ready for Michigan. And I think this spring practice is going to be very, very interesting to see. Alabama's now truly been knocked off the pedestal. They did not get back to the college football playoff. Everybody's shoveling dirt on them. Well, they need to kind of quote one of the old Western movies and just remember what Doc Holliday said. I'm your Huckleberry, and come back and kind of show people who the man is.
Drew D 977 ESPN. Drew D 977 ESPN. You can find him on Talking Ball 97.7 The Zone up in the Rocket City. Drew DeArmond, I hope you have an awesome day, rest of your day, great week, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. I appreciate your time here in Tuscaloosa.
Thank you, Ryan. I always appreciate it.